Welcome to the Grow Your Business and Grow Your Wealth podcast with Gary Helt. Gary is an expert in helping business owners put together a plan that will provide a better future for their businesses, themselves, and their families. On the podcast, Gary interviews other professionals who share his vision, and together they share secrets and strategies any business owner can use to build a better financial foundation for your business and your life.
Hey, welcome back to the podcast. This week, my guest is Neil Chua. He is the CEO and co-founder of Vault Holdings. So, Neil, tell us, how did you get into digital marketing?
I got started back in the day, like I'll age myself a little bit, but in the AOL days and the boards, and I was 16 and we were dialing into the boards and the forums once upon a time, right as the dial-up stuff was actually happening.
Right.
A long time ago. Got fascinated by computers and technology when they came online during university years, and instead of going through the musician degree and in theory that I was actually headed for, and bowed out of that and jumped into the corporate world because there was nobody to teach or do the learning and aspects of technology. At that point, everyone was just learning and trying to get certified or trying to learn the aspect of business and technology. So I just dove headfirst into the corporate world, which luckily landed me in a couple of unique positions. Long enough in life, I knew challenges enough, just seeing what can happen without certain fears of risk. I landed luckily on the first support team for Sprint's PCS division on its internal website to support the launch of the first mobile phone. So I got to be the first man on the street, if you will, supporting a small team of 5 people building the website to support the call centers. And after 5 years, we grew that into an enterprise. Literally went from 5,000 to 80,000 people when I watched Sprint's mobile division take off. So I got to see a hyper-growth situation almost in startup, if you will, backed by large corporate dollars from their long distance. So it was fun to see that, be a part of that, not at the fundamental and business operational level, but at the growth and watching just how incredible this thing was. And that led me to being picked up by IBM. They saw the project. They saw some of the unique things we were doing in business at that point that no one had done, like the first large corporate installation of a knowledge management system, and then went to IBM and floated around there for almost 5 years until 2007. And then realized I could reach the next level. It was either go to partner and keep pushing that corporate track or take my leave. And in 2007, we agreed to take leave because I didn't want to move to Argentina. That was my next stop. They're like, hey, you got to go to Argentina. I'm like, I don't want to do that. And they're like, great, here's your early retirement package. And I'm like, I'm quitting. I technically got my package and walked in 2007. That's when my real business kind of adventure started. And then went on to start a series of companies, management consulting, and then lead generation for the internet business side, and found that was something I was really good at, was media buying and generating leads for companies and businesses and mobile phone download apps in different locations around the world, and got really good at that. And then realized I should own both ends of the offer. I should own the product side, not just the lead gen side, because I was making some of these companies a lot of money, and a couple of them went and raised millions of capital off of the lead generation my company was helping them develop. And I'm like, I got to own the product side of this too and get the full end to end. Like, why not? It's the next step, right? It's the evolution. And so that evolved into me getting into physical products and private label brands. And I launched my first private label brand in 2012 on Amazon.com. And so we ended up in about 2 years making that into a 7-figure business. And then from there, just because business and development, and I'd partnered up with a gentleman who'd spent most of his career as an entrepreneurial guy and had a huge book of real estate business. And by 2012, he said, what do I want to do when I grow up now? And we had a mutual friend that introduced us together. He's the right half of my brain, and we make one brain together. Right. And hey, marketing and development and business and networking, that's my thing. He's logistics, operations, management, CFO style stuff. That's not my brain. And so we partnered into this, and now we've been launching businesses and done well more than 100 million in total sales between our companies and our client companies. We've launched many brands to exit and growth and are starting new ones and continuing that process. And now the next evolution in this long story is mergers and acquisitions. So now we're into buying and selling these companies, and we're looking to acquire about 5 of them this year. And we just lost an LOI this week on a really good one. I was pretty excited about that, but didn't quite get to the table before someone beat us to it. So we're off to the next businesses we're looking to purchase this year. So yeah, a long evolution story there. Sorry about that. But
no, that's awesome. That's cool seeing how you started, like you were saying, the old dial-up type.
Oh yeah, on the boards.
Noise to where we are now.
Oh yeah, that 10 years moved extremely fast. Between the time I was 16 and 26, the internet had come online, business and development. It was just a wild west of figuring out where you could go and where you fit in the bottle. I just didn't want to fit behind a computer screen programming. And that was where a lot of people went. So I went into the business side of it.
Yeah. So in looking at the digital marketing, what are some of the challenges that you see small business owners
Sure.
running into when they're trying to get into that world?
So pros and cons. On the pro side, with some AI and technology and systems driven things, the stuff that we were working on 10 and 20 years ago is so much easier than it used to be now. But because it's evolved in a process that we learned through and pivoted at different points, for us, I can say that in an oversimplified manner because in a lot of ways, there's a lot of complexity to the way it's done now. And because there are so many different ways to do it, it is easy to acquiesce what you should actually do. Should I actually focus on a website? Should I focus on social media engagement? Should I develop paid ads or hire an ad agency? Should I be on like a Shopify platform and sell my widgets and wares there? Or should I be over on Amazon FBA and fulfillment by Amazon and selling my products there? Or should I be on Etsy? Or should I be a consultant? Or should I be in the AI prompting world? Or should I put any of that into my existing business? And if I want to put it in my existing business, whether I'm in retail or I'm a consultant or I have a real estate development company or I'm just a high income earner in a 9 to 5 job and I'm like, I'm done with all this crap and I really want to start my own business. Should I go into a franchise? Do I start my own company? Do I leverage technology to do that? There's just questions after questions you hear
Oh yeah.
continuously that make this a big kind of gray area of confusion, right? I personally have found that in that confusion for people that get involved with us and do what we do is the simplest way is just to lead and let them follow. And since we've led through the e-commerce space for a long time and have developed systems, technology, processes, people, methodologies for scale and growth and profitability, I would typically lead them into the e-commerce world because that's what I'm most familiar with.
Mm-hmm.
People would say real estate makes more sense to me. I say digital and online. Marketing, physical products, etc. That is a combination of both digital and physical because we have asset-driven brands with private label products where we own the inventory, and we have the virtual component of selling them through a web interface. We combine the two. So in that way, for me, it's been more simple to take people with no business experience whatsoever, or somebody who has business experience in other lines of business, whether they're a pharmacist or they're a retail owner or they've got franchises or they're a real estate developer or short-term rentals or even owning franchises and want to develop an online brand with physical products. It's pretty easy usually to translate that concept and methodology and training and learning through the business fundamentals into an e-commerce based business model. I found that over the years to be relatively easy to do with folks when they figure out that's something they want to do. And that's just part of that challenge is figuring out what to do there, right?
Yeah, because I know many times going into business and things like that, again, you don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially if somebody's been in business for over 20 years. When they first started, there really wasn't a whole lot of the digital marketing side. Everything was still
Yeah.
print advertising and everything else. And it was really more word of mouth that got things around. But now with digital marketing, there's so many influencers, so many things that are out there. How are you able to help the client understand their ROI when it comes to the digital marketing?
In the instance where we do digital marketing on platform first, starting with Amazon first, because they're just an ecosystem of data, and their data and our systems and tools now give us the definable metrics, that return on that investment, that how much profit I should have in my business, how much my product should profit, what is my growth opportunities, what is my cash on cash turnover after 12 months for anything I invest in the business this year and want to take out of the business next year. We know those metrics really well in the e-commerce world. And we always start on the Amazon platform first because that's where buyers are. And one of the biggest things small business owners need is leads or sales for their business. And we joke, sales fixes everything. One of my mentors once upon a time hammered that into me. Sales fixes everything. And a lot of business owners are afraid to sell. And so they think that the idea is that customers want to be sold when in actuality they want to buy. So a lot of their marketing is too pushy. A lot of their marketing is not attraction based, and therefore they actually repel the customers. So I see a lot of these local and based advertisements and stuff talking about, their benefits and what's in it really if you get involved with us, but they actually miss the concept of what is in it for the client, what is in it for the customer, what is in it for them. So they don't really speak. And Really, when it gets down to writing and business and lead generation, it has everything to do with understanding your offer. Having an offer that's so stupid and irresistible that people feel dumb saying no to it. And if you use that concept there to determine your offer, whether it's a physical product on Amazon or a lead or generation for a local plumber, you need to be thinking about what is it as that offer that I'm going to give that customer where they literally feel dumb saying no to it. It's just irresistible, right? No one's doing this at the moment because I think they feel it's risky, but I've often wondered if a local service, because I know the guys here, we just did a whole remodel in our house and I had every kind of person in here from electricians to plumbers to everybody. And none of them actually said, hey, I would do some of the work for free and then you pay me after you feel that it's done. Now, it sounds like super risky, right? But let's say I'm really good at it. Let's say I could come in and I could lay your toilet down and I could put your plumbing in that new bathroom and I knew that I was going to do a superior job and you agree that would be a $2,500 job. And we had a contractual agreement to that, which allowed you to possibly opt out of it. There's a risk in that and there's some things legality-wise I won't even go into. But at the end of the day, no one's offering to say, hey, you know what, just pay me $500. I'm going to do this work and you'll owe me the $2,000 when it's done. It's an irresistible offer, right? It's, hey, if you don't like the quality of work, we'll talk about it. We'll do this. There's just a number of ways to make offers and deals to your customers and create uniqueness in your business offering to differentiate you between all the other, say, plumbers, electricians, dentists, chiropractors, whatever, that I don't see a lot of people taking that advantage. They don't stop to think enough about what is the customer need, what can I get them, what is their major pain points, what is the solutions they want. They think a lot about, I'm not filling the pipeline, I'm not filling leads, I'm not filling my books, I'm not filling the walk-ins, I'm not seeing the business grow. And they don't take the time, I think, to really sit down and shift that. One of the main focal points we do when we teach somebody how to become a business and CEO operator of an e-commerce company is set them down and make sure they understand the fundamentals of business. What is a P&L? How do you look at a business overarching cash flow plan? How do you move logistics, inventory, freight, marketing, and platform fees and return costs and shipping costs and warehousing costs? And how do you make and understand all of that component of the business so you understand how the sales will fix any of those costs? And so we really teach them how to go through that and then how to get eyeballs on those offers. Once you make that an irresistible offer, you've got to ensure people see it. And it's really not that complicated anymore because there's abilities to reach millions of people now very fast. And in fact, in the longevity that I've been in business personally, and since I got started, so much technology, so much has moved so fast. We can now build 8-figure businesses in 5 years. That used to take decades. Mm-hmm. So at the speed we can now move, the communications we can now move, once you get that narrative correct, once you know your offer is solid, just keep repeating it over and over again on as many channels as you can possibly turn on.
I think that, and you talk about it's okay, we try to teach this to these people and so forth, and that they have to be salesmen because as a business owner, you're constantly selling, or at least you should be.
Should be trying to sell or market at least,
right.
Which is an activity of sales.
Right. But so many small business owners are really good at being that plumber, that electrician, that chiropractor or whatever. Yeah. They don't understand the business side. It's just that
they're great practitioners. Yeah.
Yeah. They were doing so good and people kept, oh, you should start your own company. So they did it. Yeah. And then now they get to the point where they need help. They're still very good at doing their skill, but they need help being able to do everything else. I always find that keep it simple, stupid keeps coming back in my head all the time. How do you guys get it? Because obviously you're trying to lead the business owner through this process.
Correct.
How do you dummy it down for them? And I don't mean that in a negative
way. No, what's a plan that they can follow that makes it relatively simple to keep it stupid? We've developed a playbook is what we refer to it as. And in our playbook, we have about 8 different steps. And in those 8 steps are sub-steps, if you will, sub-tasks. And so under, say, the first one, which is called ideation, it is developing what the hell do I sell? Which is a question a lot of people have. In this instance, in our world, it's physical products. So the question is, what's a physical product I could sell on a marketplace like Amazon? Okay. Right. And in that ideation stage, we go through a number of subtasks to conditionally train people to start looking and seeing products that kind of are everywhere in our life, even products they've already purchased from Amazon, right? Looking to determine that those products exist is filling a pipeline and conditioning of your life to change yourself from a consumer-based mindset, okay, and into a marketer/business-based mindset. And that takes a little time and really takes some aptitude. So if you back up from that step, I always talk to the individuals first and have them take what's called a DISC assessment, DISC. And then the DISC assessment, which is not like your emotional INJPF, elemental P,
Right.
whatever. It is really about your aptitude for certain businesses and aspects of dominant, influencing, stability, conscientious, and has to do with whether or not you understand certain tasks, operational tasks, whether you think more at the micro level of management, daily, weekly, monthly, or do you think more at the macro level of management, which puts you closer to more of a dominant, influencing CEO type or a business leadership type, which is not where you really see yourself in the weeds. And if you truly understand where those profiles go, we really look for somebody who's even keeled. Okay, they're not super high on the operational list, maybe at the engineering level, and they're not super high at the like dominant influencer level, which is like I should be on a podcast, that's my business, I should be on marketing, I should be in Joe Rogan, I should be out there in the world on stage telling people my story. That's more of a dominant influencing position. Right. They're more stable of dominant ISCs, and so they tend to see both follow the leader, follow the path. They have entrepreneurial spirit in mind. They just don't know who to follow and what steps. So we take them to the playbook, and it makes sense to them because once they see the steps, once they understand what's my daily, weekly, monthly activities, then they begin the conditional learning of figuring out what products are all in their environment. And then really we go by the numbers. And so in the by the numbers aspects, that has to do with things about accounting and business and finance, where we train them on things that they may not have understood. I've got business owners that ran really strong dentist practice that come to us and don't know their P&L statements because they don't understand how to read business. So we teach them how to read business. We teach them through the playbook, which is literally a physical copy they download and walk through. We teach them through members videos they can watch to support the language definition, terminology, and application of it in business. And then we have one-on-one coaching with them to reinforce that in a one-on-one setting. And we do all of these things in a very, very detailed manner, and we usually do it on 12-month sprints. So we work to train them as a conditional owner, understand the numbers of profitability in a business model, and then understand what to actually brand in the business. What does that actually mean? Like selling products, what does branding actually mean? A lot of business people don't understand that. They think, I have a practice, I put my name on it, I slapped a logo on my door, I'm branded.
Yeah.
But they don't actually know what it really means to have a brand. If they stop and think about it, and if you're listening to this today, you probably are brand driven if you stop and think about it for a second. If I wanted to start a fight on the podcast, I would say something to the effect of, in the comments, tell me that you think all Android people are stupid and all iPhone people are fanboys. Right? They'll get in the comments and be like, iPhone's better. And people are like, no, Samsung had this, Google was doing this 10 years ago, and you can start a fight. So people really end up being more brand driven than they like to admit. If I asked you what car you've driven, Gary, and I said, is it something you've purchased multiple times? You might say, yeah, I've owned, all Hondas, and I love them because I ran them to 300,000 miles, and that's all I buy is Hondas. Right. So in that way, you have a brand affinity and emotional connectivity to something in your life, some event, some connectivity to that brand. That is actual true branding at the end of the day. And it is something where you might even know the jingle, and you might even know something they said from a commercial. It may be a part like whenever you go to get a tissue, instead you just say, hand me a Kleenex, and it doesn't matter what box it is because you're getting a Kleenex.
Yep.
So that's branding. So we have to understand how that emotional connectivity to a physical or product ties into our ability to get people to repurchase, to rebuy, and of course tell the world about that brand. So it becomes more of a common knowledge type of thing. Right. And so branding is understanding the pros and cons, and we go and make sure people understand what real branding means. Brands can be created in 10 minutes for what we do, but it makes no sense yet. So we leverage Amazon's brand authority first to leverage a brand into a market no one's ever heard of, which can now deliver products to the household, which gives us the opportunity to make a household brand name. Right. And then from there, it's just making sure you understand how to get people to see the products, right? Get eyeballs on the offer. Amazon's a big tree. It's a big system and a filing system, but it's also a river. It's a river of traffic that's flowing 24/7, 150 million people. You may have an Amazon account and get stuff to your house. We get it all the time out here in the country. A lot of people do, more than 150 million Prime members. And so once we understand what that network looks like, we understand how to get people to see our products. We understand the system of visibility that they allow and why we leverage that to get people to sales who've never sold anything online before. They've never understood how. We teach them how to gain traction and see where the people want to buy on a platform that has 7,800 products being moved a minute. So it's just an enormous beast. And then from there, teaching them how to expand into other channels, into websites, into marketing, into QVC, into online and TV and radio, and then taking that brand and moving it through all the different channels.
Right.
And that's accomplished correctly. They've got an asset. Everything is being driven as an asset from the very beginning with the end in mind, which means the business exit. So we structure everything from the very beginning of a training with a business owner or somebody who wants to get started to understand their business as an asset. Everything being built like a house. Everything is being built for worth and value in the future. That way somebody who, corporate or otherwise, or private investment groups or small investors want to buy these companies continuously. I get 2 to 3 calls a week from people wanting to buy companies. And it's a great asset opportunity. If you spend 3 to 5 years building that asset, you can create generational wealth moments. Daniel, one of our clients, is going into his 5th year, and his exit will be somewhere between 10 to 15 million. When he exits the company. This is generational wealth opportunity for his family of 5 or 6, I believe. And that is something that he started as a golf course manager and with a theology degree who'd never sold anything on his life online. And now he's running this 8-figure business now. So it really gets down to aptitude, training and conditioning, knowing the steps that you should take. And in my experience, having gone through the business development, 2007 to 2000 and roughly 11, I was on my own, learning how to adapt through business and try to figure this out, which is very different than the corporate life. That was very different. Running a business and thinking you can run the aspects of corporations is very different. And when I hired my first mentor, he really set me on the path because I hired him because he wasn't nice to me. I know that doesn't sound right.
Yeah.
But I needed to hear the things that he beat into my head. And by that point, I was really willing to listen to some of the other mentors that came along the way, some through relationships, some I paid to be in their company so I could learn from them. Mm-hmm. And some of the people I'm involved in now are people who've done billions of dollars of sales a year. And I just look at that and go, my thinking is way smaller
Right.
than I really think that I could see right in front of me. I understand and I see the abundance of it. Money moves, money flows, traffic flows, everything flows. And for some people right now, that river of money is flowing in different directions. It always changes, it moves, it shifts and takes paths. We saw in 2008 with real estate, things shifted and moved, and now we're seeing different changes in the marketplace as it shifts and moves again. And in my viewpoint, last long-winded part of this conversation, for those who might still be listening to me, is that money's moving to business acquisition. Money is not moving into Wall Street. We have a big wealth without Wall Street play here going on. Because a lot of people are not investing in 401ks now. They're not putting money into some risky assets. Real estate deals are not necessarily penciling in as easy as they were before. Taxes have gone up and the codes have changed so much. People don't know necessarily from the right hand or from the left hand at this point. Mm-hmm. And so they're not looking to necessarily build in certain assets. They're looking to buy into certain assets and businesses. And literally the business of real estate and business itself are the 2 ways you make millions and billions of dollars. There was a graph here the other day from a research company that showed what's the difference in asset allocation between somebody who is in business and somebody who's a multimillionaire, someone who's a billionaire, and someone who has an income, a job, and spends the next 20, 30 years at it. And when you look at that, you realize that the majority of business owners who have wealth and money and control, 90% of that is in their business. Only less than a couple percent of it may be in investments of other kinds, Wall Street or others. And the other 10% or less is held in liquidity, okay? Assets they can get access to. So when you look at that shift on the other end of that spectrum, people with 100,000 or less in the bank typically have it in their car, in their house, or in the bank, or in their 401k. So it's just a very different way of thinking about how to move where money moves and where the real opportunity is in business and building. And therefore, you should understand some of the risks you should take. That's the long-winded point of this answer, is understanding what risks you should take and when, and not being afraid to make some of those risks and accept the positive or negative outcome of taking that risk and then gaining the experience one way or another, because you're certainly not going to get the knowledge without that experience.
Yeah. I think that there's a lot of what you just said. There's a lot to unpack there in that you talked about that, hey, look, I had mentors. I had people that I paid to help coach me through a lot of this. And I think that's something that lots of times business owners are afraid to venture down that road. And I think that's something that's very important, that we all don't know everything. No
That's right.
way we can.
Nope.
So we need to make sure
Still
that
learning.
we have those coaches that are helping us in our weak spots. And like you said, they got to make you feel uncomfortable, and they got to, in my opinion, you should never have someone who is your coach that you're friends with, because they may not
Got to separate those. That's absolutely
give it to you the right way. And
Yeah,
and they do. They got to upset you at times to get you to push through things, and it should be uncomfortable.
it should be. And everybody's been quote unquote scammed by somebody online or some other business or some deal they thought that was going to be great. You can't let that define the next risk level you're willing to take. If I had done that, I probably would have gone back and got a job long ago. You have to be willing to pivot past that and realize that every one of us has ran into a problem with somebody who we thought would help us or we paid to help us, and ultimately they didn't meet. They didn't show up to the right deal. They didn't give us the right advice when they did show up, or they're all this blah, blah, blah. But if you get locked into the idea that no one can add any value to me, that no one can help me, and that all things I see are a scam, then you're locking yourself into a scarcity limiting belief mindset, and no one's going to want to help you, and certainly they're not going to do it for free because you're not willing to help yourself first. Right. And so when I look at qualifying those who work for us, I'm always looking to find, are they willing to help themselves first? Have they failed at anything they've already tried? Because I don't want them to fail on my time and their dime, because that will end up with a bad relationship and a bad review. Okay. And I don't want that for myself and my business and my brand. And I certainly don't want it for them and the money they may have invested or the things that they expect to happen. All expectations have to be done correctly. We got to get in the boat and row the same direction, because if we're not, we're just going to go in circles. That boat will just spin around in circles. So I usually want to define criteria as those who are willing to risk and accept the responsibility of the positive and negative outcome, and then keep going. Grit, tenacity, and perseverance, right? If I hear you talking about all the problems and this comes in and this is a scam and this person here, and I hear all limiting scarcity beliefs in your mindset, I'm not going to work with you. And you may have just missed an opportunity. I've had that problem in the past when I was that guy. All right. So, and people would blow me off and I'd be frustrated by it. And I'm like, why won't they listen? Why can't I get connected? Why won't they want to talk to me? And it's because I'm the problem.
Right.
And if I don't change that, then the rest of it isn't going to get fixed.
That's for sure. That's for sure.
Yeah.
What have I not asked you that you wish I had?
Oh, no, you've asked some great questions.
I mean, we could go on for days about this because there is. I mean, there's so much
There's a lot
to all of it. And that's why, listening to you and you talking about it, hey, this is like a 12-month process for us type thing, where many times, you hear people trying to do this and it's like they're around for 30 days. And
there's so much fear, there's concern, there is limiting as that money is moving. It's changing for certain people and they feel like it's going away. Things are getting more expensive and challenges are out there for all kinds of people. And having been bankrupt before with a small family and having to start over from zero and having $275 in my bank account, I know what it means to be struggling. Okay. So and that was a long time ago, but it's still palpable to me, and the changes that we watch and how easy it is to make mistakes and get yourself into situations where you can be in jeopardy. But having been at the position where we've raised money, been involved with money, and had abilities to get money up to 100 million, I can tell you that at the end, it's all numbers. You have to get your head out of that. What you have to really figure out is, how do I get started? Where do I find my little place to niche in from my business? Where's my little marketing angle? Where's my opportunity? And then you got to go for it. We just have to go for it and know that you gave it a good shot. That we're here for maybe 100 years, maybe. And that's a fleeting moment. It goes so fast. And if you think you're waiting and just sitting on the sidelines expecting something to fall into your lap, it most likely isn't going to happen that way. So you didn't ask the question, but the end of that is that in the instance of where you want to go and who you want to be, I once wanted to take that kind of money, and we did develop a 18-month pipeline and got 100 million in capital to raise for a portfolio where we were going to buy 53 companies into Voltage portfolios. And we ended up turning it down because the asset base we were looking at had increased above 40% on buyer ask. And because of that, everything was super overinflated. And we knew we could not buy at that asset, so we had to stop. And the market has since gone back. It's capitulated. Some of those businesses that tried that have now failed at it. A couple of them went into Chapter 11 bankruptcy and restructuring, and a couple of them are being sold off now in pieces because they didn't make it. So now it's time for us to acquire. and to acquire slowly. So in that process, I learned about what is health and wellness, what is abundance, what is enough, what is the value of time, really. And it's thinking very differently about the value of time. And certainly in time, I appreciate anybody who's still listening to this right now and spending some time with us today. I value that greatly. Yeah. But in the end, it really is where you put your worth, and where I wanted to put my worth was going to take me away from that. And that's my family. That's the acreage we have here. It's the homesteading. It's the homeschooling we do with my 4 daughters. It is the life that we have developed in more of a lifestyle-driven ability to do this business remotely anywhere. And so a lot of that was going to be compromised in that process. And I'm very glad it didn't happen now in hindsight. And so none of that's been compromised. And so I get to be the guy who stays at home and hang out with my kids, and we travel around if we need to, and we go as a family unit. And that for me is wealth. I don't need the more zeros in the bank account to say that I've achieved certain things in life that I will never regret going forward. And that has nothing to do with how much money I have. So really what it gets down to in that last part is just purpose over profit. One of the things I finally realized was, of course, profit is the most important part of a business engine for you to get to growth and scale, but you can't compromise that with the value of purpose. Right. And that was a huge learning lesson for me. If purpose drives first, profit will come behind it. It naturally will be a byproduct of the purpose and tenacity and time and energy you're willing to put into anything, your business, whether it's plumbing or new startups or real estate or e-commerce. It doesn't really matter at the end of the day. It matters that you have purpose behind it. Profit cannot lead purpose, or it will fail. Ask me how I know.
Yeah. People like what they hear, and they want to reach out to you. How can they find you? How can they?
Well, I certainly hope they do. If they do, they're more than welcome to check out the book. We've got the new book out called Almost Automated Profits with FBA, which is building a lifestyle-driven business by design all the way through exit. You can go to voltagedm.com to check that out. There's a link there to check that book out. You could Google me. My name is very short. You can look up Voltage, not far off in there, or hit the website, hit social media. You'll find me in one of those locations. There's plenty of ways to connect with me at that point.
Great, great. Neil, really appreciate your time today, giving everybody a lot to think about for sure.
Thanks for having me on, Gary. I appreciate your time.
Yes. So this week, my guest was Neil Twa, and he is the CEO and co-founder of Voltage Holdings. Thank you, and I'll see you guys next week.
49 faces looked to him in triumph. Over the last 12 months, they had each taken turns and promoted his business for a week at a time, driving over $987,342 in revenue. What if you had a network of 50 centers of influence who promoted your business every week for a year? Grab your copy of the #1 Amazon best-selling book, The Ultimate Guide to Growing Your Business with a Podcast, at 33% off the Amazon price by going to ultimatepodcastbook.com. Again, that website for 33% off the Amazon price is ultimatepodcastbook.com.